This is Let's Talk Business with your host, Marc Ebinger. Now, here's Marc.
Welcome to Let's Talk Business, a show that highlights and promotes entrepreneurs to learn more about their vision, goals, and marketing strategy. Coming up on the show today, we're going to talk about how business owners often neglect their own personal wealth while building and running their businesses. This is something that when you first said it, Greg, I was like, that resonated with me because that's what we do. We get so wrapped up in making sure the business is successful that we forget to take our own piece of the pie. So in studio with us today is Greg Thompson, the founder and president of Stone Oak Wealth Management. Greg, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate being on, man. I'm excited about this morning. You guys are already having fun and laughing on a Monday morning.
Yes.
So thank you.
Of course.
It's a great way to start our week now you mention it. All right, I'm your host, Marc Ebinger, the owner of Krukus Virtual Staffing, a company that specializes in providing remote staffing solutions for small to medium-sized businesses by hiring skilled English-speaking virtual assistants from the Philippines and Latin America.
And I'm your co-host, Jenevy Sims with the Evolve Firm, where we help entrepreneurs evolve through creative branding strategies.
And I'm Kyan Frith, also a co-host, and I'm the CEO of KV Impact Consulting. We're CFO consultants and cyber specialists, serving San Antonio, Texas, and further afield.
A quick reminder to follow the Let's Talk Business podcast on all the major podcast platforms and social media, where you can catch video versions of the show. You can get to everything easily from our website at satalkradio.com.
Now, if you're going to be in San Antonio area on Thursday, May 16th, 2024, be sure to join us at the next Let's Talk Business Mega Business Mixer. We're expecting 150 local business owners and entrepreneurs on site to mix, mingle, and connect with each other to do more business. You can get all the info on our website at satalkradio.com.
You know, we've got a lot of sponsors for this one, so it's going to be pretty diverse, and we've got some really cool stuff going on, too. Jenevy had a fantastic idea about doing a red carpet video
Yes.
segment. You want to talk about that real quick?
Yeah, we're going to do a virtual card. So when you come up to the red carpet, we're going to have our co-host interviewing you, and you can talk a little bit about your business, and it'll be something that you can use on all your social media platforms to help promote.
So it's nice to not only come to a mixer and make great contacts, but then come away with some content as well. So I'm excited about that. It's every time we do one of these, it's like we need to be adding something that
Get
is
bigger
useful.
and better.
Yeah, and not just a flash in the pan, but something that's really tangible for business owners. If they're going to spend 3 hours out of their day, you know, got driving and everything else going on, getting a sitter or whatever, then it should be worth it when you get there, and that's super important to me.
But on the basis that the first one was so good, and people said that it wasn't just a normal networking event, that there was deeper connections and proper networking went on and business was done. And that was on our first ever one. So this mega mixer should be literally mega. And I'm dead excited for it. I mean, it's just such a privilege to be involved.
There is a risk, though, that when you got something good going on, you go in and you start tinkering with it, and you mess up the formula. So, but look, the heart of it is the same, and that is connecting business people to business people. You know what I mean, and coming away with something that may help their business long term as well. So, I'm excited as well. I think it's going to be a hit. There's going to be plenty of food, plenty of margaritas. We doubled up on the food. I think the food and the margaritas are both being doubled up, but definitely the margaritas are being doubled up on. So, all right. So I want to give a quick shout out. So I do a lot of stuff on LinkedIn. So I want to give a shout out to Kendra Ramos, an agency director at Globe Life Liberty National Division, and Stephen Torres, a construction manager at Tribble and Stevens Construction. I'm excited that we've connected and look forward to networking with you guys. Speaking of networking, so I'm launching a new online-only network group called Just Network, and that really is the heart of the whole thing. It's about just networking. It's not about education. It's not the Mark show where you sit and listen to me for 20 or 30 minutes or whatever. That's not what that is. It's about bringing business people together, business professionals, and networking. So the premise is we come together for 60 minutes and we're done within 60 minutes, so it's a reasonable time. And we have 2 breakout sessions. So you come in for a welcome, then you do a breakout session for about 15 minutes. Everybody gets about 3 minutes to talk to the other people in their breakout room of 5 people. And then we come back together, one presentation for everybody. So that would be a pretty exciting presentation, especially if you got 100 people in the room. You're really kind of getting your voice out there in front of folks. And then another breakout session, same way, 15 minutes. Everybody spends 3 minutes talking about their business. And the cool thing is while you're listening to folks, you identify who you want to do a one-on-one with to get to know. So once I've identified, hey, I want to meet with Kyan or Jenevy or Greg, it's like these are people that I think would help my business. Then you just click on their calendar links. Everybody will put their calendar link in there, and you can just set a one-on-one just like that. It's a great way to kind of get to know people, but then hone in on who you want to reach out to. So that's the premise of what we're going to be doing. It's going to meet twice a month on the first and third Tuesday at 8:30 in the morning Central Time. So nationwide gathering of folks for business networking. So I'm excited about that. If you guys are interested and you want to come check it out, it doesn't cost anything to check it out. The network group launches on June 4th of 2024. Just head on over to crukus.com/network to get all the details. That's crukus.com/network to get those details. All right, Greg, excited to have you on the show. You're a very deliberate man, I can tell, on what you're doing. You're focused. You've got a good, grounded set of values. I learned that on our prep Zoom on Thursday. Your background is interesting, and I think it applies because there's a seed of it that is kind of the what sprouted the rest of your journey where you're at today because it's foundational. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up here in the financial world.
Yeah, so I was blessed at an early age with being able to throw a baseball pretty hard. And so the good Lord blessed me with a fast fastball. And so I developed that over my young life and ended up getting drafted by the LA Dodgers in the 12th round back in the 94 draft and decided I wasn't going to go to school. They were going to pay for all my school when it was time, but I was going to go straight to the minor league. So I went and played little minor league baseball and got to meet a big league player by the name of Brett Butler, and he led me to the Lord, and he explained to me just what following the Lord looked like, and it started changing my life. And I was 19 years old when he shared that with me, and I ended up having some arm problems. And as soon as I got drafted, and I got a signing bonus, I'd never really had much money, and so I either was going to spend it or save it. And somebody told me save it, and so I ended up putting it with my uncle-in-law, and so it's my wife's uncle, and so he was at Merrill Lynch and started investing it for me, and I started wanting to know what was happening with my money. And as I was studying, what is the stock market and what's an investment, what's a mutual fund, I fell in love with it, and so I knew that's what I wanted to do. So even when I was in baseball, I was taking correspondence courses and classes, studying during spring training, and so by the time I was done and had 3 surgeries at that point on my shoulder, doctor said, you're probably not going to pitch on this level again. And so I took away from baseball something a lot better, and that was my faith, and turned around and knew this is the business I wanted to be in if baseball didn't work out. And so finished my last year with my finance degree and emphasis in accounting, and graduated on a Saturday and started at Merrill Lynch up in Amarillo, Texas on a Monday.
Now, have you ever taken the personality assessment, the DISC assessment?
I have, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Where do you fall on that?
It's interesting. I kind of fall in the middle of them all. So it's kind of like it's not one strength over another. It's pretty even across the board. Mm-hmm. And that's been interesting to me because it has allowed me to see that I can kind of go with different personalities pretty easy and change based on who I'm talking to, and so I'm good at kind of talking to and relating to different groups of people.
I think finding joy in our profession is something that can tether us to that for long term. Where do you find yours with respect to the financial world?
Oh gosh, the joy, it's the joy in the Lord. The joy in what I do. And this is the biggest change in my life, and the biggest change in in the business that I've been in. I've been doing this for almost 24 years now. And the joy of the Lord, doing business as a ministry, seeing what we do as work, as our ministry, that we get to serve and give back, is so much better than what I thought business and work and building wealth and notoriety and leadership. It changed the way I viewed all that.
Good, but how do you see what you're doing as in service of the Lord? Now, I could shortcut this by saying, look, I see it as, from my perspective, you would be by doing good wealth management, you're empowering the individual. Right. And when the individual is empowered, they have more authority over their life. And when they have good principles, that leads to good things.
Right.
But that's how I see it. How do you see it?
Yeah, I just see it, what we're called into, like what is really our purpose in this world? Because we all have to have purpose. If we lose purpose, we start losing hope. And so what is really our purpose in work, in life, in raising kids? What is our purpose? And if Jesus is reliable and his words are reliable, then he says, what is important is me. What's important is relationship. What is important is love. What is important is service. What is important is giving back. What is important is putting others' interests above our own. Like, that's what brings joy. But the world we live in, the worldview we live in says, no, it's money and sex and wealth and drugs and alcohol and whatever else that we want to consume. And then you get into your 50s and we have a midlife crisis and we realize, hey, we just built something on something that actually is not bringing more joy, is not bringing me more contentment.
So one final follow-up before the co-hosts take over the show is, look, that can be, it can be lip service, right? It can be, everybody says this, right? And everybody will say Jesus and the Lord and all this kind of stuff like that, right? Now, I dig deeper on that because those are words, but when they're implemented and somebody truly grasps those things and executes on those things and has impact on others, the reward is intrinsic there.
Yeah.
The reward is plenty enough. The money comes. The money follows good work, right? Yeah. But when you impact somebody else's life and it turns them around in a very positive way, that in itself is reward.
Yes.
And that's what feels good and inspires us to go on to the next day and the next week and the next year and so forth. That's how I see it. But that's what I'm trying to connect to is how do you get that joy out of servicing others through the work that you do?
Yeah, so just aligning what we teach and how we do wealth management and how we manage investments around what God says versus around what the world says. So it's just taking a different worldview. We take a biblical worldview in our advice and our recommendations and how we manage our people, our resources, and of course our advice. And that's really the big one because in our business in wealth management, it's really around, we have to deal with fear and greed. Those are the two biggest emotions. And frankly, as a business owner, executive, leader of a company, like those are the two emotions that can really drive us in our decision-making in anything. And so in wealth management, it causes people to make major mistakes. It causes business owners to make mistakes with their wealth. And so we want to bring just that wisdom. And most people don't understand how much the Bible speaks about wealth. And so there's almost 2,500 verses on wealth. It speaks about wealth and money more than almost any other subject. It's absolutely amazing. And until I started looking at it, I was like, wow, why not allow thousands of years of proven track record of something that does bring contentment and has brought joy? Why not bring it into the wealth management business? So that's how we do it with our clients as we see it is when I say it's our ministry, it's because we're relying on God's word with what he says, and we're finding it is bringing more contentment when things like COVID happen or when inflation gets out of control and people start becoming fearful of losing what they've built all these years. And so now they're more content. They have more joy because they're now trusting in the Lord. Because that's our job our mission is leading our clients into a fully integrated life of wealth stewardship. What does that mean? Wealth stewardship. Well, it means let's align our wealth with our values. Here's our values. Here's what God says to be true and good and beautiful. Let's align our wealth with that. And so that's what we get to do every day. And just it not only brings joy to all of us in the business, but we're bringing what we see as more contentment and joy into people's lives, especially when things get bad.
I love that. That's so unique. You don't hear that very often in the business world. So I think what you're doing is absolutely amazing. I just kind of want to bring it back a little bit. When you started off with baseball, what are some of those lessons that you learned in baseball that you have brought over to the business world that you have just naturally implemented? Because with baseball comes discipline. So how do you apply that when you started your own business?
So good. Thinking back, the biggest thing that I learned, I think this was the first time that I can remember learning this as a young person, and I've learned it, it's built on itself over time, And that is that we have this plan. We have plans. I believe it's Proverbs 19:21. Many are the plans in a man's heart, but it is the God's purpose that prevails. So I had these baseball plans, big league plans. Baseball was my God. And I had these plans. And that was the first time I realized, God's plans never look like my plans.
It's true.
And his plans are always better than mine were. And that was the first case that started in me, because I realized when that happened that I took something better away, and that's built on itself over time. So that's the biggest thing that I took from it. Is God, what I think is I want and is going to happen, it almost never happens that way because his plans are different.
So let me dial in on that. 'Cause look, I always like to go below the surface on things, right?
Yeah.
So why do you think that's important that God's purpose would prevail?
Yeah. It's important because if there is a God and he created us, he is the creator, he knows way more what's better for me. He knows more because he already knows the future. He already sees what has happened. He knows what is better for me. And either I can say, I know more than him and I know what's better for me in my life, or I can trust him with it and say he knows better. And so it's just a trust issue of I either trust that he knows more what's better for me, or I'm going to take that
Why
place.
is that important?
Because I think that's what brings true joy. What the Bible calls, his word says it's true joy. It's what brings true joy into life.
Okay. Why is that what brings true joy?
Because he created us for relationship. So he created us to have a relationship with him. And outside that relationship, we're always searching for something. And we're never going to find it until we find that relationship. But once you find that one thing you were created for, you know it.
Yeah.
Beyond a doubt, you know that this is what I was created for, and it fills every need you've ever had.
Right. It's like when you have a high-performance sports car, it needs certain things, right? And if you're like, well, I don't want to put this kind of gas in it. I want to put different kind of gas in it for whatever reason. Maybe it tastes better, whatever. But it doesn't function truly with that sports car. It was created to operate a certain way. So the joy of the sports car is that it gets to perform at peak level and enjoy it when it does the things that it's supposed to be doing. So when that's probably a poor analogy, but it's like there's people talk about purpose and about joy and about all this other stuff. I like to dial in on why is it important, and how does it really matter to the individual that you follow a purpose or you follow God's path to things. It's because he knows it's not about God, it's about us and our relationship, obviously, but we're going to be better and perform better and be happier and joyful if we do the things in the way that we're supposed to be doing them.
Right.
That's dialing in, I think, a little bit deeper on why that stuff is important. Otherwise, it's just words.
Right.
If we can't apply it and actually understand the execution of it, it's just words.
Yeah.
Not that it's bad words, but it's still just words. So.
And the Bible says that. If you merely hear my words and you do not do them, you're like a man who looks at his face in a mirror and turns around and forgets what he looks like. You do not know who you are. It says, do not just merely hear my words, do what they say.
And I think the more people execute that on a practical level as an example to others, the more we can truly understand what that means.
Yeah.
Because the world's full of noise.
But that's the most difficult part. As a business owner, I really want to think I know what's better. I know what better benefit program for my employees. I know how to treat these expenses and these revenues. I know how we're going to put this implementation in how we do financial planning and wealth management for clients. I think I know the best way. But a lot of times his word and what he says, no, this way is better. And for a business owner, for somebody in our in where we're at, we've got to say, hey, who do I trust? Do I really trust my own way of doing things, or am I going to trust what he is telling, what he is saying to do? But every time we say, yes, I'm going to give him that trust. I'm going to have faith. I'm going to say, I'm going to do it God's way. I will tell you, I have never done it and gone back and said, that was not better. Every time I walk away, say, why am I so dumb? And why is it so hard to do it his way when it's always the better way? When I always walk away saying, wow, I brought something back so much better. but it's still just as hard the next time to say yes sometimes.
Absolutely.
Because we just
Yeah.
want to be gods
We
of
wanna
our
be
own
better.
business, our own
Yeah.
life, our own, it's all, where's our treasure? There our heart will be also.
Definitely.
So where is our treasure?
It's doing business under the covering
Yeah.
of God's goodness. And that's the thing too, is when I first started my business, I was so focused on that. And this is my company. I get to lead it the way I want to do it. And for a while, I was just kind of spinning around. I was like, wait a minute. Why is there such a separation in faith and business? It's not something you see very often, where you see leaders, business leaders, coming out and saying, you know what, we pray at our office. And it took a while for me to realize, you know what, there's not supposed to be a separation. You can do it. And that's how I operate my business for a while. But then when I met my business partner, and here's what I just want to show everybody is the difference between the two. When you try to do things your way and when you try to do it God's way. When you try to get out from that umbrella and get out of that cover, basically, and try to do it your way. So when I started my business, yes, God was in the forefront. I was leading people to Christ. I was having people in my office praying over them before our projects. And then came my business partner, who everybody knows that story. He ended up screwing us over and taking half my clients. He did not have that faith. We were very unequally yoked. But I chose not to see that because I said, this guy's bringing something to the table that could elevate my business. This guy's going to turn it around. He's going to bring our business to that level that I want to. So I'm going to focus on that and overlook all the other things, which was absolutely the worst thing that I could do. So it took everything that our business was founded on, and it was taken out from under me. No, we're not allowed to pray. That you're going to make some people mad. It's not okay. That's not how other people do business. So he started laying down these ground rules that all of a sudden I started losing who I was, my identity, because I was trying to entertain something that I was unequally yoked with. And so our business, yes, financially looked great, but the foundations started breaking down, and I started losing myself. I started losing my joy. That's what it looks like when you take yourself out from under God's grace and try to do it yourself. So it does apply to the business world. What that purpose is, living a purpose-driven life, it makes a big difference because people can see it. They're going to look at you and go, what is it about you that makes you so different?
Yeah.
It's Jesus.
And I'm totally with you. I'd put my hand up and say my UK business was not terribly successful. Why? Because my motive and my foundation wasn't right at that time. Moving over here, my wife and I, we met at the end of 2019, and we were very united from the outset. And she started into the business that we had in the UK in April of 2020. And then we were readying ourselves for moving over here. And moving over here, our business was founded at the Empty Cross in Kerrville, with the vice president of the trust praying over us and prophesying over us. And we're going to do this differently this time. Now, do I sit here today and go, everything is absolutely awesome? No. Is it financially amazing yet? No. I've been going for 9 months. But I have a joy in my heart because I know who I'm serving. And I know that I'm doing what he called me to do in the way that he's called me to do it. And there are certain things that I do that others wouldn't do. And there's certain things I don't do that other business leaders would do or could do. But that's a choice I've made. And I'm immensely happy in that. And there's a real joy in it. But it's not an easy journey all the time.
No, it's not.
There are moments you go, okay, God, I don't get this. I've had moments, and I think I've shared with you, Greg, like last year where I was out on, I'd had a day and it was a particularly bad day, and I had a real rant because I'm like, what on earth is going on? You called, I'm doing, this is happening.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I don't get this, And I remember hearing the following day God go, yeah, at least I now know your heart. Now we can go deal with some stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, So I'm sitting here this morning, Greg, and I'm listening to you, and like, we've known each other for a little while now. And whenever I have a conversation with you, it's always absolutely incredible, no matter what we're initially talking about. And I love it. But despite talking about all the joy, there's probably been moments where you've struggled, You've been faced with some stuff.
Yeah.
So how did you face that in business and overcome it? Because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people listening to this today where they want to align with you with the joy, where they're going, but I'm going through some real crazy stuff right now.
Yeah.
This is tough. From your experience, maybe you could share about your experience a little bit, but also then some guidance and some learning tips for people who listen to this going, do you know what? Oh, okay, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, so good. So yeah, our business is definitely a roller coaster ride. And so mine has been no different. But I have lots of scars and bruises over the 24 years I've been doing this. But it has been an absolute blessing. And God had to unwind, 30 years or so of thinking and habits and ways of doing things that he had to change in order to get me to where I'm at today. And so I needed those things. I needed to strike down the pride. I needed to know that it wasn't all about me, and it wasn't all my money, and it wasn't all my wealth, and it was his, and he was calling me into something bigger and better. And so if I were to go back and do something differently, I would definitely do one thing differently. And I've been through just some ringers starting companies, and even this company, I remember the first couple of years of getting it going where I was wearing every hat. And for you business owners that, you're in your first 5 years of business and you're doing it all, and you're worrying about the cyber, and you're worrying about the employees, and you don't have the money to hire the people that you need to hire. Those are the times that, man, it's a crossroads. It's a what I call a Jeremiah 6:16 crossroad. And this is what the Lord says. He says, when you come to a crossroads, ask for the Lord. Ask for the ancient past. Ask where the good way is, and you will find rest for your souls. I wish I would have known that early on, But when this happened in 2017, 2018, when I got this company started, and I was really feeling that, like, I was done. And I went to my C12 board and I said, I was done. I'm done wearing all the hats. I don't want to do anything. And of course, so often us as business owners, what's the last thing that we do? We rely on the Lord. So I did everything in my own power pretty much in trying to get this thing going and getting the help I needed. And now here I am, my last call, get on my hands and knees. And I'm like, Lord, I need help. I'm not moving forward with this company. I feel like you called me into this. I know you gave me the vision, you gave me all this, and now I am worn out, I'm wearing all these hats, and I can't keep on doing this. And at that point is when things started changing. And I realized the power of prayer, and the power of prayer it was one person after another he started putting in front of me. And I was able to start handing stuff off and getting help and being encouraged and praying in the office, because when it's an office of two, you're limited in what you can do. And we just have grown since. And now it is just such a blessing to see the growth of the people at our company, to see the growth of our clients, to see it has been phenomenal, but it has been hard. And I was absolutely on the verge of just 5 years ago to saying, no more, I'm probably done.
I think there's something that you said there that would really resonate with a number of business owners, because you got to that point where you realized that you were overwhelmed, and you're like just being hit. And
didn't see an end in sight. You don't see an end to that.
Indeed. And I think there's probably a number of business owners who are going through that. I see that a lot with people I go and talk to. They're blinkered. Mm-hmm. They're wearing these multiple hats, but they're blinkered because they've gone into business doing the one thing that they love and they're passionate about. Not being funny, Mark. When we started having conversations, you were passionate about virtual staffing. But when we started talking about numbers, when we started talking about some of the other stuff, it was almost like a white noise initially. And a little bit blinkered because you were focused on the virtual staffing and the networking side of things. And there's a lot of business owners I will talk to who they're literally like, well, I make widget and I'm focused on making widget. That's what I've always known is making the widget, but actually operating the business and doing the other stuff. is a distraction.
Well, let me comment
but
on
they
that
get to
because
a pain point. Yeah.
that actually ties in what you guys are talking about, because when you've got the blinders on, you call them blinkers. When you got the blinders on,
Oh, we'll go with
right?
blind. Oh, sorry.
I like the blinders.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No,
Sorry.
and all along our path, people are being put in front of us that we may not see, right? Kyan's in my path. It's like, okay, great, Kyan, okay. And then we just keep doing this right here. But no, Kyan's back in my way. Okay, all right, I got it. Just, but the thing is, at the end of the day, is that I needed to pay attention to the numbers, which means I needed to see the value of the numbers, which means I needed to have an aggregation of data and put in a way that made the numbers made sense, which made them valuable. You see, that's the path I had to go through. But I did. I was like a salamander in the hand. I was slipping around trying to get out, kind of a thing. I didn't want to focus in on it. So just to kind of double down on your point there.
But it's such a shame that so many business owners are going through that. It's not just in their first 3 years or 5 years. Some of them, they can be going through it for years and years. And even, we're talking a lot these days about baby boomers. They've been running the business for 20, 30, 40 years. And now they're stagnant now because they haven't seen beyond the current situation. They've not asked for help. They've not sought anyone to just reignite things again. And they're just stuck in this blah. Yeah. And you've got through it. You've gone through some real rough times. We've talked before about some of the stuff you've gone through, and brutal. And yet you sit here today, you've got this massive smile on your face. Every time I meet with you, you have this smile on your face. And there's a joy, and I would just love more business owners to experience that, of just going, do you know what? It was worthwhile. I'm glad I fought through. I'm glad I asked for some help. I'm glad that people drew alongside me and guided me.
We have to learn to celebrate the failures too. The failures is what brings character. I mean, Romans 5, 3, and 4, we also rejoice in our suffering, because suffering brings perseverance character, and character hope. Like, we need this. And now I'm learning to celebrate it. Now I'm going, okay, Lord, things are getting a little rough. What are you trying to teach me? What are you doing? What, you call me into something new? There's something that you're working on? Like, he's developing more character, more hope, more faith in him. And so as you go through it, you realize it, but we don't celebrate it at the time. When we're in the fire,
Oh, no.
it's
Yeah.
very hard to celebrate it. And
True.
it really is. But it's the only way that the Lord can transform us into doing the work that he wants us to do, and finding that true joy.
Yeah.
Finding that true contentment.
But that building character, that's an interesting one, because how many business owners, and I've been there myself, going, I know what I'm doing.
Oh, yeah. Until we don't.
And I don't want someone influencing me. I don't want this. I don't want that. And I remember having a brutal lesson many years ago about being a poor leader, and someone drawing alongside. And realizing I needed to change. My character needed to change. My leadership needed to change. And moving into a collaborative nature. Yeah. And actually, when the penny dropped, when I realized and just stopped the whole ego thing going, it just utterly changed the working. Really
And
did.
business owners don't quite understand the value by following this type of worldview. The biblical principles, even for those business owners who are not Christians, it doesn't matter. If you follow some of the biblical principles in your workplace, you are going to bless people. There is a reason ESG has exploded, and it really started around aligning corporate values, owners of companies and executives aligning their values with the company. And so it really started here, why it's become so important, because it's proving that when you put the interest of others above yourself, when you operate out of loving God, loving others, and teaching them and educating, and we call it discipleship. Like, when your work revolves around that, longevity of your employees, attraction of a culture that people want to be in, the growth of your employees and marriages, you're praying for people, you're providing Bible study, you're trying to align families with what's good and beautiful. Like, what is the value to a business in doing all that? And that's something that I really didn't think about, but now I'm looking back going, oh my gosh, we're creating significant value because our culture is so unique. And this is spreading. This is not unique to Stone Oak Wealth Management. Like, this is spreading around the country. Like, there is a movement going on in the marketplace because It is good for people. It's good for business. It's good for top line, bottom line. It's good for our own soul. And of course, it's our purpose being called into this world.
Amen.
Like, wow,
Amen.
It's catching on and we're seeing it.
Yes, absolutely. Well, when business owners first start their business, first of all, you're starting your business to solve a problem, right? The thing is, though, like for me, when I first started my business, all the focus on the financial part was building the business. So whatever we make goes back to the business. So how do you help business owners diversify away from that to make sure that they also, get compensated for the time, the efforts that they're using to build that business? For a while, I didn't even pay myself. And my mentor came into the picture and was like, how much are you paying yourself? And I said, nothing, because I need to build my business first. Yeah. But that's a different mentality. So how do you address that? How do you help business owners really figure out where to allocate those funds?
So good, Jenevy. That is a big question, and that's dear to my heart because, without being in community with other business owners that are like-minded, trying to do the same things, or who have already accomplished some of these things, how do you align with those people? How do you get around those people? How do you be encouraged? Like when I wanted to give up, who's patting me on the back saying, no, Greg, you've got something good here. You keep on going. You pray, you do this, we're going to be praying for you. Like, who are you surrounding yourself with when things get really bad that can provide you the godly wisdom? Because Proverbs 55:22 says, plans fail for the lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. Like when we have good advisors, our plans will succeed. And so C12 has been the single best organization. Thank God I was in C12 with my other company. I owned another company with some partners before this one. And I was in C12 when I transitioned to this new company. And so C12 is another group of like-minded business owners who walked with me through it. And that was key. And the curriculum at C12 teaches you how do you align your values with your business? How do you incorporate in your mission statement your values and your employee benefits? How do you treat your customers, your processes, your procedures? What can you do and what can't you do legally, and how do you do it well? And so C12 has been absolutely the biggest benefit in building a company that the foundation is our faith.
Mm-hmm. So, to Geneviev's point of focusing on growing your own business wealth,
yep.
What we ought not to do is forget our personal wealth development. So, but not all business owners see it that way. So, how do you help them transition from, okay, yeah, you're doing good here, let's build your personal wealth?
Yeah. So, if you're a Christian, I would just point you to it's all God's, and we're stewards of it. 1 Corinthians 10:24 and Psalms 24:1. It's God's. Our company is His. Our wealth is His. And so I really believe that aligning it with His will and His way is one of the biggest ways, because you start realizing that, hey, this money that I have, it is important, the choices that I make with it. And if you're not a Christian, just knowing some of those biblical values on what He says is good on how we use our money, how we spend it, what we use it for, why we've been allowed to have it and blessed with it. And I think that is probably the biggest one I would say is.
Well, so that speaks to maybe your mentality, but I'm talking about the actual practical steps of saying, hey, you know what, look, yeah, I get it, you're busy, but you do need, like to Genevieve's point, you need to pay yourself, right?
Absolutely.
And then let's start generating assets for your own personal wealth, right? What are some initial steps that you actually help business owners with in starting to build their own personal wealth as a practical matter?
Yeah, absolutely. So it all starts with the planning process. It is a process. The problem with business owners is we are all on this investment mentality. We are investing pretty much most of our wealth into our companies, and that is kind of our retirement plan. And so we're thinking from an investment standpoint. And so, but all of business owners' assets are typically tied up in their company. They do very little savings outside. So one of the first things we've got to do is start helping them separate and start diversifying some of those assets out of the business. How do we do that? What's the best way to do that? How do we start taking some off of the board, start thinking about transition of the company? And so some of those things are really important, because that's what's been neglected the most is most of the company, they don't have a lot of savings that's going to produce their future revenue. They're betting on they're going to sell their company for multi-millions of dollars, and that millions is going to be the retirement plan. Well, what if that doesn't happen? What if that doesn't work out like that? You're putting, as we say, all your eggs in one basket. You're at very high risk. So the other one is just when it comes to aligning your value or aligning your wealth with your values. So, hey, we have the values of this. A big one in the Christian community right now is abortion, right? A company that provides abortions. There might be Christian clients who don't want to invest in those type of companies that provide abortion facilities. So if you're just going investing in mutual funds and index funds, there are companies obviously doing that. So we weed those out, and we can help them align and know that they're aligning their wealth with how they really align most of their other values in their life. So it doesn't matter what religion you might be. We can filter out different companies, different things, weapons of mass destruction, tobacco, alcohol, all of those things. So we help them align that. Also with decision-making process. So how are they creating the wills, the trust, the estates? How are they aligning their faith into that? How are they preparing their kids? This is a big one. Like, they're so worried about how they're going to pass the assets on to their kids. A lot of times what's neglected is we're not preparing the kids to receive the wealth. So the Bible's pretty clear, like, hey, pass wisdom on before you pass wealth on to the next generation. So we come in and we want to help educate. We even bring kids in and teach them about markets and investing. And we even set up accounts for them so they can test out, investing in, if they like Apple products, they go buy Apple stock. So we help align and prepare them for the wealth that they're going to receive in the future. That's a big deal, because our youth are not prepared for the wealth that they're about to get. And we're talking about trillions of dollars that are going to pass the hands from one generation to the next. And we don't feel like they're really prepared to handle that wealth. So we want to prepare the next generation.
That's true.
So I assume that one of the key takeaways here is business owners, stop just investing back into your business. Just pause. You need to have a conversation with the likes of yourself, Greg, and go, wait a minute, how do I ensure that I'm not taking this high-risk strategy of just investing into the business and actually think about what I should be doing with in terms of personal wealth? How can I make sure I kind of basically diversify the portfolio and make sure then that I'm preparing for the future in a structured, sensible, logical manner? Yeah?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, it's a process. It's the process that is important.
Sure.
Most of us business owners concentrate on the investment piece.
Yeah.
They want to open an investment account, invest in stocks and make money and everything else, and then they don't have time to watch it, really. And so you get a call only when the market goes down, and now they're upset because their investments are down. Because they don't have time to deal with it. They're used to investing all in their company. They want to invest in this one thing. And so we help them navigate that so they don't make those mistakes. Because a business owner is good at running a company and building a company. We're good at managing investments in the process of planning. And so let us do that, and they don't have to concentrate on it, and that is what really leads to success. It's a lot of business executives and owners, they try to manage the company, and then in the little time that they have, they try to manage investments, and it doesn't go real well because they make some emotional mistakes based on what's on the news, what they're hearing, or the state of our economy.
Mm-hmm. You touched on something a moment ago about educating basically the next generation coming through. This is something that actually I've had a conversation with my daughter Ava about, and the fact that she goes, well, why aren't we taught this kind of stuff in school? This is important things, like what to do with money, how to invest money, tax returns. You talk, and she goes, why am I learning about trigonometry? Like, when am I going to use that?
Yeah.
Why am I not taught some of these practical things? And what's your view on, should there be better education?
Yeah. Isn't it funny
Like
that
at
our
high school
children, so my boys come home and say the same exact thing. Yeah. And is it funny that our kids know more about what they should be being taught than our school boards and the ones making the decisions? That's kind of sad.
Well, we didn't question that.
But yeah.
We're from the same generation, right? So we didn't question that. We went to school, we did our stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But nowadays, they do question it more.
Yeah. Yeah, so just aligning, at the end of the day, we all have a worldview. We all have a way of thinking about how the world operates, right? And we can have the regular secular worldview, and we kind of see what's happening with the world with that. We see the geopolitical stuff. We see what's happening with the divisions in our own country. Or we can go with that biblical worldview. And I just think teaching our children about just love and treating others with respect and dignity. And it doesn't mean we have to be tolerant of everything. You know, Jesus did say, hate what I hate, love what I love.
Mm-hmm.
You know, God wants us to do that, but we do it out of love. We do it because we love people. And are we really operating out of that? Are we operating because we actually love others, or we're trying to get something in return for our own benefit? And when we truly can learn to operate our businesses out of love, like, oh my gosh. And I know this sounds cliche or whatever, I don't know. And it sounds weird coming out of my mouth, but it's truth. It's like truth. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not the most emotional person, so talking about that is like, I'm like, this does not really sound like me.
So answering Kyan's question there, sorry,
Too close.
about there's a biblical quote about my people perish for lack of knowledge, right?
Yeah.
And so kids aren't being taught the things that truly matter to keep. In my opinion, it leads to ignorance. Is it willful ignorance? I don't know, but it definitely leads to ignorance, which leads to bad decisions, which leads to lack of progress and so forth. So that's kind of my thought on that. Is it's actually by design to keep us stupid.
But the interesting thing is, what we haven't touched on here is we're all making the assumption that the education is supposed to be coming from the schools.
You're right.
No.
Right.
It's the parents' responsibility, first and foremost. And actually, we should be taking back that responsibility and ensuring that we're educating.
Hey,
So
as business owners, so what are we doing for our employees and helping them and raise their children?
Wow.
How are we helping our employees teach them about things like wealth, about managing those things? Like, we enjoy coming into companies and helping them through their retirement plans and stuff, and educating their employees on these processes and what they can be doing, because frankly, money is the number one cause of divorce, you know, and that's not good for the kids. So we're talking about raising the next generation. It's sure not good that families are, over 50% of families are splitting up. What are we doing in the workplace as business owners to try to solidify marriages and bring couples and families closer together? Like, people, we can be doing a better job in the marketplace on that.
That's true. And so that wealth management goes beyond, just your company, your business. Like you said, you're helping families. When people are thinking about wealth, there's all these types of fears that arise. When it comes to investments, that main question is, I don't have enough money. How do I invest if I don't even have it? How do you address that? How does your company take care of that?
Yeah, I just got done teaching, Dave Ramsey course at our church. And it was amazing. People are hungry because they haven't been taught these things. And, we prayed for 250 people to sign up at our church. It was just our church that we opened it up to, and we were praying for 250 people. 800 people signed up for Dave Ramsey course. Unbelievable. It shows you how people are hungry to just understand. We're realizing the destructive nature of wealth if we allow it to be destructive in our lives. And it's showing that was a prime example of a number of people who are just hungry of, how do I get out from under this? And it usually starts with debt. It usually starts with, we've gotten ourselves in a hole and we have too much debt. I was there. I made the mistake. I pre-spent what I thought I was going to make next year, and I did all the stupid stuff that I now teach a lot of people not to do, and I learned my lesson the hard way. And getting out from under it seems almost like an impossible task to do. And now all of a sudden, within an 18-month period, your cost of all that debt has doubled or tripled or even more in the cost of it. So what I would say is start a process, start a plan. I mean, Dave Ramsey's a good start. And how do we knock out the debt? What's the best way to track it, keep it? Everybody can spend less than they make. It's a choice. It's a decision. Now, you might be in a hole right now where you have just too much debt and you can't right now. But there has to be a plan in order to get out of it. And so we can help put that plan in place. Dave Ramsey has a really good course that helps do that. But those are the sorts of things that we would recommend.
So that's personal debt, right? That's not business debt you're talking about, or are you speaking to both?
Well, I mean, it really personal debt is business debt, because when we as a business owner have to take out debt, it's a personal guarantee, and it's really in our name. You know, it really is personal debt, not just business debt.
How do you reconcile then debt is actually a tool for business?
I would say that if you have all of the cash and the money to pay for whatever you need to go into debt to pay for, and you choose as a strategy that we're going to hold this cash because maybe we're making more on the investment of it than we're going to pay on the interest of the debt. That would be the only reason that I would say, hey, debt, you can use it to your advantage. But if you're using debt because you can't afford something to buy, you are mortgaging your future. You're mortgaging the future of your company. You're mortgaging the future of your cash flows. You're mortgaging your future. So I recommend absolutely not. If you don't have the money to pay for it, forego it. Don't pay for it. Save up the money, get the money, and pay for it.
Totally
Unless it's
agree.
going to have a direct ROI impact, correct?
Well, that's if you can predict the future. If you've got that crystal ball, absolutely right. The problem is we don't have that crystal ball, which is why the number of small businesses fell, as they get into debt and they think this ROI is going to be one thing, and it's not anything like they think it's going to be. You just have to be careful with it, and it is going to lead. Using cash is way better. It's biblical. And it will keep you from a stress, anxiety, marriage, family, all the way around. It's better in all those. If you want to get better sleep, don't do it. You know.
How do you address that thing, Kyan?
Well, this is a real interesting one, because with my accountant hat on and being a CFO, I would totally agree with Greg. I remember when I was trained for my articles very long time ago, and we were being taught, you should be taking businesses into debt. Debt's cheaper than equity. And I'm like, it just sat really uncomfortably with me. Always did. And my faith wasn't like it is now, but it just sat really uncomfortably. And then you got to the 2008 crash. And those businesses that had over-leveraged with debt were just absolutely up the creek without a paddle. And I sat there, and in my own head, I was like, told you so. And I felt like, yeah, I was right. Now, yeah, there are times when the debt can be useful. It can be useful, but it's much easier to try and trade without it. Without a doubt.
Yeah. And we're talking about what brings more joy in life, what brings more contentment. Like, what's the best way of building and doing things? What's the best decisions to make? It doesn't mean this other decision may not work out, may not be in your favor, or may not be even, better financially speaking. But doing it this way, we know we're within this parameter that has been proven. I mean, I've not read stories that if you don't use debt, you're more miserable, But I've absolutely story after story about how debt has ruined people's lives and marriages and families and divisions and all that, partnerships and friendships, and it just does.
But I think it's also maybe to the level of debt. Are you buying a truck for the business because the kind of business you're doing, and actually you can finance? You can service the debt, so it's manageable, and you got plenty of cash flow going on. So yeah, that's fine. But the interesting thing there is you have to have actually done your forecast. You have to actually know what's going on in your business. And again, I come across way too many businesses where they've got absolutely no idea what the cash flow is going to look like next month, 3 months' time, 6 months' time. They're not thinking about it. They're not preparing for it. They're not doing the business by numbers. Mm-hmm. So actually getting yourself into too much debt there and leveraging debt to assist your business, that's just foolhardy.
I'm in an industry that is synonymous for predicting the future and trying to predict what's going to happen tomorrow. And one thing I've learned is it's literally impossible, and you cannot predict what is going to happen in the future. And so that is why debt is so dangerous. And we have this false reality that we think we know and can control what's going to happen, and we can't. And so, yeah.
There's a business that I was made aware of about 2 weeks ago, and the gentleman who was talking to me about it does capital funding, and he was just talking that business through with me, and it was clear that business is bankrupt, that this capital guy was trying to assist with it. The business owner says, I wanted to try and raise $2 million to fund the business. And the guy looking at the numbers going, there's not a chance. You're already debt-ridden, and you're basically bankrupt. You cannot service your debt anymore. But the business owner, sadly, had no idea. He had no idea what was going on. I don't think there was a CFO or an FD or someone in place advising him. It was all down to this business owner. And how sad is that? So a business that's been going for 20, 30 years is now going down the pan because there was no careful management. I think that's tragic.
Well, we talked about fear of not having enough, but what about having, when you have a lot, you have a fear of losing it.
Yeah.
So as we're getting close to the end, let's wrap up with these. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, wow. Man, I have seen this over and over again. It's just the human psyche. And as people come across money, especially large swaths of money, it changes the way they think about it. It changes the way they treat it. They look at it. Christian or non-Christian, I've seen when we don't trust the Lord in things, then fear, anxiety, and stress sets in. And this is really what it's around. And when you come across a lot of money, all of a sudden now your emotions change. You're used to seeing the smaller piece of money go up and down by thousands, tens of thousands of dollars, and now you're potentially seeing movements of millions of dollars in short time periods. So mentally grasping that, getting a handle around that, it's an open door for what I would say is the enemy to bring that fear of, oh my gosh, are we losing it? Oh my gosh, look how much it's down. Oh my gosh, this is more than I'm going to make the rest of my life, and it went down this much. Those types of things that start building in people's heads creates this fear where all of a sudden we get a call, take it all out or put it all in this, like really bad decisions of doing exactly the opposite of what we would recommend. And we've only seen it really happen a few times because most of the times we're able to talk some sense and some truth into, hey, what's actually going on? What's the best use of and decision to make around this? But every once in a while, we just cannot stop a person. And business owners are bad at this because they're not paying attention, and they're paying attention on building a company. And then all of a sudden we get that call and they hadn't looked at it in a year. And now all of a sudden this fear just swells. Oh my gosh, I haven't been watching it. So now they feel guilty and shame because they haven't been stewarding it well. And now it's down, and they should have gotten out 12 months ago when they were thinking about it. And all of those emotions play in. So it's almost like we're dealing with emotions more often than anything else in our business, which is why the plan and the process is so important. When you don't have the plan, like you are building a home by throwing a whole bunch of boards together, hoping it turns out into a home, right? Like the plan navigates when things go bad or things really good. What's the smartest thing to do with this money? And what you're thinking is happening with your money, like I'm not going to be able to retire, and I'm going to have to work longer, or I'm not going to have the income I need in retirement. Like now the plan shows, no, this hasn't impacted you at all. There's been zero impact to your overall plan. But if you don't have that laid out where somebody can see, now they're basing all their decisions out of emotions, because frankly, business owners, executives, they don't have time to spend the time on navigating the markets and what to do and what not to do at the right time.
I love it. It's like music to my ears of someone talking about planning and structure, and just it needs to happen far more in business. It really does. Yes. But it's interesting when people don't have a plan and there's no structure. So like I would see back in England when people would win big on like the national lottery, and then all of a sudden they've won like 100 million sterling, and like over here in the Texas lottery, now you suddenly win like $1 billion, like a guy did in California, and you're suddenly hit with all this money, and you think all their problems have gone away.
Yeah.
No. And the percentage of those people who became millionaires in England overnight, the percentage of them who were then bankrupt and lost everything, marriages destroyed, lives wrecked, was enormous. Yeah. Mega high percentage, because there was no planning, there was no structure. They were just thrown into this situation. And even though there may be people who are available to give them some advice, they didn't really listen to it, because they're like, hey, I'm going to be fine, you know? They go out and buy house and house and house and cars and cars and squander it, you know? And people, to a certain extent, do that in businesses too. You know, and they could do it on an exit strategy. Yeah. You know, they built that business up. They do sell it. They then get multiple millions, and then they're like, "What do I do now?" And it gets squandered. Yeah. Because there's been no planning and no structure. You know, over a period of time.
All right. Looking quizzical. We do need to wrap it up, guys.
Oh,
so
come on!
I know that hour goes by so fast. Yeah. Greg, if folks want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Yeah, www.stoneoakwealth.com, 210-741-8068. Those are the best ways to reach out to us. But Stone Oak Wealth Management, helping lead our clients to a fully integrated life of wealth stewardship.
Love it. Great conversation, guys. We kind of touched on a lot of different, aspects of wealth. You know what I mean? Philosophy, religion, practical steps, fears, some joy in there, too.
I thought it was good. I thought it was good content, right?
Absolutely.
I think
For
so.
business owners.
All right. As we wrap up, a quick reminder to check out our latest podcast and catch video version of the show anytime by visiting our website at satalkradio.com. That's going to be it for this one. You guys have a great week, and we'll see you on the next one.